Running Sentences presents Tangled in a Criminal World. Part 2. Explosives. Micha wants to get out of this situation that he finds himself in, but as life dictates, other things must happen before that can happen. This story is written and narrated by Michael Hunnery. It is a work of fiction, so any names, characters, businesses, events, and situations within this story are products of the author's imagination. Any resemblance to real people, situations, characters, businesses, events, and/or fictional ones is purely coincidental. Copyright 2024, Michael Hunnery. All rights reserved. The echoes of the distant booms and nearby explosions faded away as the three people stared towards Mr. Vance, standing sort of in the open dock plaza area next to Mr. Vance's shop. Micha stood just off the edge, staring, wondering what he was going to do now himself, but he really had no choice. "What did you do?" "What needed to be done in order to get our operations off the ground, Mr. Dune? What else would I be doing?" "By destroying things, Vance?" "Rearranging things, Miss Bloom, rearranging. It is preferred term in my business. You lot weren't holding up your end of the bargain, so I had to push." "Tell me you didn't actually attack the naval yard." "No, I did not attack it, Viceroy. Someone may have put stuff nearby and in your chambers, and that may have had a co-reaction, but it wasn't me who did anything to it." Micha shrank against a nearby wall, wanting no part of any of this, and hoping he could pretend he wasn't hearing it either. His movement, though, caught the attention of Mr. Vance, who glances towards him and smiles a dark smile that does not match his sandy hair. He does not make any move, though, and turns his attention back to the other three steamingly mad individuals who just apparently been bombed. "You might cause an all-out war against civilians with what you've done, sir." "I'm satisfied, Captain Viceroy, that nothing will lead to that. It is all going up according to plans." "Why would you even do this? And because you've done this, I expect I might not have a home to live in anymore now?" Miss Bloom said, her voice on the edge of annoyance. "You haven't been doing your jobs and getting me what I wanted. Getting things removed from your possession, Miss Bloom, is only fair trade," Vance said in retort. As Micha stood there leaning against the wall, he was trying to figure out if he should stick around. The more he heard, the less he wanted to be a part of this, but it also sounded like he probably couldn't leave thanks to this Mr. Vance. His foot of his own accord, though, had slid to the side, so that should he need to move, the option might still be open to him. "We're trying to move carefully because if we go too fast, the whole thing goes bottoms up, Mr. Vance." "Mr. Dune, that is not my problem." "The only reason you say that, Vance, is because you'll blame us and walk away scot-free," Captain Viceroy interjected. Mr. Vance offers a foggy shrug that had rolled in and was growing thicker around them. The clatters of horns from lighthouses and those of the fire department sounded mournful and were getting close by. "I wouldn't have had to do this if you did what you were hired to do. Now hurry up and go do what I asked you to do." "You've destroyed my office, which is where all of my information was. Now I can't do what you want me to do." "That, again, is not my problem, Mr. Dune. You should not have gathered it all in one place, and it is for the better. We need to be lighter and faster. Now the police will soon be around here asking questions, so let us move away." The three angry figures are swallowed up by that fog and disappear before anything further can be said. Vance, though, was still visible to Micha, and he watched as the man turned to him. "I've heard nothing and require nothing but to be on my way." You're owed money, young man. I'm good, I think. You only think you're good. That doesn't sound very sure of yourself, Vance replied. Not waiting for another moment, Micha turns and bolts away, listening hard for the sound of following steps, should that happen. Through all of the back alleyways and other roads he goes on until he gets to the bridge, to the quarters section of town, feeling fairly safe and not followed. Halfway across the quarters section of town, he'd arrived at the bridge and came to a stop, panting for breath, looking to see if he was, in fact, actually being followed and hadn't been listening carefully enough. No one appears, but Micha feels he can't trust that as much as he wants to. The bridge was a quiet area, and he plodded until he was halfway across that, and aside from a few people crossing over, mostly to the quarters area, where people lived, and packed in tight, it was all quiet. And so he followed them carefully into this area. He doesn't live there himself, unable to afford it, but he did know a few people here, who he hoped might hide him for a little while. A day or two at most, as he found himself in front of what was known as the packed house, where a lot of workers would stay. At the door he knocked and waited for a few moments before it opened, thanks to the late hour that they were in. An elderly man stands in front of the door. Hello? Hey, Bruce, I need a place for a day or two, if you don't mind putting up. Did you get yourself into trouble? No, yes, no. I did a job that paid well, and then led to me hearing stuff probably shouldn't have. Not my fault that this happened. The man looks down his spectacles on the bridge of his nose at him. Are you bringing the trouble with you? I didn't hear it, and I didn't see it, and I'm not aware of it, but there is always a chance, sir. Well, Micha, it isn't like we don't have trouble here all the time. We don't have much room, though. Anything is fine. Oh, come on. Micha finds himself swept into the house by the firm hand of Mr. Bruce. Morning came and nearly went by the time Micha appeared from a nearby cupboard closet he'd borrowed to get some shut-eye. It led straight to the kitchen, where the smells of food were really strong, although slightly fading. He emerges as the breakfast run is about done for the people who live in the packed house. Well, if it isn't a face we haven't seen around here in a while, what brings you here? Needed a place to sleep, Liliana. Well, that's a likely story, but I suppose if Bruce let you in, then it'll be okay to give you some food. In response to that, Micha reaches into his pocket and takes out a few coins. He sorts through what he has and walks over to Liliana, offering some up. I can pay for it, no worries on that front. And what makes you think we want your money? The way things go around here, you and Bruce always need it to keep things running. The white blonde hair of this stout but homely Liliana needed to constantly be tucked behind her ear, which she kept doing. It's what she always does, and what she was doing now, despite the fact that she should be cleaning up. Who told you that? I don't need to be told that. Anyone who knows this city and this area knows that everyone wants and needs a bit more money to get by. And you are suddenly in a position to be able to hand out money? No, but I did the job that paid well enough, and I know that everyone can use some money. Take it. She eyes him for a moment, but her hand is already snaking out to grab at the worn coins. You better not regret it later. There's still a bit of food that you can take. I don't want to see you idly hanging around here, either. That's fine. Is Bruce around and awake? I'd like to talk to him if he's available. You know he's probably in his office, as that's the only place he can get away from everyone. He can't escape people there, but he likes to pretend he can. Grabbing a few food items off of nearby plates, Micha munches on them as he heads towards that office. Not bothering to knock on the door, Micha marched straight into Bruce's office space, a small one set off to the side of the packed house. Despite that, he kept it clean and tidy so that people could come in if needed. As rude as ever, I see. You like it when people get to the point, though, Micha responded to Bruce. I suppose, but you could have knocked. Anyway, what happened last night? And please don't tell me it has something to do with the reports in the morning paper. I don't know what happened in the morning paper, so I can't say for sure if it does or doesn't. My job was to deliver a few messages, and then I hung around until a meeting was over to get my full payment, which I didn't get. During that time, some explosions went off. And the people gathered were? They were near Vance's dock shop, a captain of the sea named Viceroy, a woman named Bloom, and a man who works in an office shop. He goes by the name Dune. Bruce looks off into the distance, thinking about something, but really merely staring at the wall, as if it held some great information for him. Micha looked that way, sees the planks stained dark brown and little else. Is this Vance a thin man with sandy hair? Bruce asked. Yeah, that sort of sounds like him. I thought you were trying to stay away from criminals. Micha frowns at that. He really didn't have much choice in what work he could get lately. I am. All I was doing was delivering letters. Nothing illegal about that. That is, if it isn't linked to any of those explosions, then you might be fine. Well, no one really paid any attention to me while I was delivering the letters, and after that I was just another person in the crowd. That earned him a look. You probably went to that shop and then got seen or heard. The one Mr. Dune was a worker at, I assume. Yes, but letter deliveries happen all the time from unofficial sources. If they can find and trace me, then I'll simply say I was hired to run personal correspondence. Oh, I doubt that will stop the cops from trying to arrest you and make you squeal. That's what they've been doing lately for everybody. I can't tell them anything since I don't know anything, which means if they find me, I'm just likely going back to jail for a few months. Micha said, though he didn't really feel all that confident in it. Yes, well, that's up to you, but I suppose what do you plan to do now? Are you getting out of town? Are you staying out of trouble? How do you plan to stay out of trouble? I don't really have anything at this moment other than to lie low and stay away from people's eyes, I guess. No way to get out of town? No, Bruce, no. The elderly man sat back in his chair and stared into the distance, his fingers thrumming along the desk to it in a tap-tap fashion. Unfortunately, you can't stay here for another night. People will begin asking questions, and well, there are always people watching here. Micha finished for Bruce. Yes, especially with those magic abilities now really cropping up all over the place. It's put people on edge, and they want to be on the lookout for that next person who's going to accidentally set the world on fire. With a frown, Micha finds his head rolling back to look at the ceiling and think about things himself. There is no connection that he had outside of city, and few people he does know all stay in town. And the only one who might potentially be able to help him is sitting across from him, not sounding like he wanted to do much. Is it possible you could help? Possible, but then you'd have to do something you'd sworn off doing. What did I swear off doing? What does it entail? Listening and walking around. The only possible answer to that sort of statement would be an eyebrow raise, which Micha promptly did. How was that doing illegal things? That was the only thing he'd sworn off, and the only answer coming to him meant that he would be put someplace dangerous to do such things? I know I'm in trouble, but what have you gotten yourself involved in that sounds bad? Oh, it isn't much. My little group likes to keep tabs on things and people. Generally, we want to be in the know so things like explosions don't catch us off guard and we don't lose what we have. These ones, the ones in the paper, catch you off guard? There was a solemn nod, yes. It means that things are bad around here if we don't find out before it happens. Micha thought about that, and he didn't really have a good answer, and he just wondered what this job really was, and how difficult it was going to be. How illegal, since you didn't say that part, but it's implied, I suppose, are we talking?
Micha asked, trying to keep the graveness out of his voice.
Well, if you're caught, the sentence would likely to be death unless certain people are lenient and understanding. Now, there is definitely something being left out, and he could hazard a guess as to what it is. A palace filled with people and comforts might lie before him. There was also an immense amount of danger, which was exciting, terrified him, and he really didn't want to be a part of this. The top rung of society, listening in on what they have going on?
Micha offered as a guess.
Well, yes, if you think you can hack it.
Bruce said, finally sitting up straight in his chair.
Well, I don't exactly look the part. Maybe as a worker if I hide really well, but they don't really get to hear much, do they? Don't worry. Go to this address and things will be further explained to you. I have a person who's got good connections. An envelope comes off the desk in Bruce's hand and reaches across to Micha to hand it over. He tentatively looks at it, knowing his last interaction with such things had led him here. There would be so many unknowns and dangers that could be waiting for him if he just opened the letter and read it. Slowly, his hand reached out on its own accord and took the thing. It read a simple address of 221 Baker Street, which sounded familiar, but he couldn't place exactly why. What should I expect there? Micha asked. A figure who likes to look into matters and has a need of someone of your talents. Don't think I have talents. Yes, you do, but go and get out the back door since we don't know who's watching. I don't want to hear from you for a while anymore. Micha pauses, making sure he understands where Bruce is going with this so that he doesn't make any mistakes. But not the secret tunnel? Your secret tunnel? That is one that I'm very sure is being watched. We had some problems a few months back, so we now rarely use it anymore.
Bruce said with a growl.
Micha rose from his chair and felt a bit of exhilaration running through him. As frightening as this was, it is very different from what he was used to, and that made him giddy with eagerness. Out the back and over the wall he'd gone into the dark side streets and alleyways. Micha briefly wondered if he should make an effort to hide himself by making a roundabout route to lose any potential watchers. There's no guarantee that it would work or that someone would be sent after him. He made it as far as the Booker Street Highway Road before he began the process of seeing if anyone is in fact following him. The road is clear of any signs of that, but there were more than a few police around, and he likes to see out and about as he began walking down the road as nonchalantly as he could. You there? Micha freezes in place and looks to his left to see a policeman wrangling past a couple of people straight towards him. There are a few people around who also look over, trying to see if they're the ones being picked out. The officer, though, had his finger pointed directly at Micha. You? The officer said. Sir, is there a problem? A trickle of sweat rushes down his brow and face, going under his shirt. He swears he can feel it going all the way down to his pants and then down his leg. 1,000 questions pop into his mind about how to get out of this potential situation without getting caught. None of these plans that came up, though, seem all that solid enough for an escape, and the officer was now upon him. You match the description of a young man standing around the docks last night. Is that a problem, sir? I don't understand how that might be illegal, or what's going on. In reply, the cop sneers at him and grabs at Micha's arm. You haven't heard what's happened? With a shrug, Micha tries to show a look that says, do I look like the type of person who is aware of what's going on in this big city? It earns him a hard stare and a look over. I don't know anything about any of that, sir. Yeah, I'll bet you don't, the cop replied. With a firm tug, this officer pulls Micha away from where he wants to go, down this highway. I don't mean to complain, but this isn't the way I'm going. I have an important meeting. Sure you do, boy, sure you do. It's not going that way, though. I really must be getting to it, or higher-ups will be upset. His words were not convincing, and are ignored as he's pulled towards a nearby carriage with the words police written on the side. There were a couple of other cops around it, and it looks like there are already quite a few people stuffed inside of it. Micha frowns and tries to think of some sort of solution that will get him away from this. There is now a bit of a crowd gathering to jeer at those that have been picked out and pushed towards that carriage. Excuse me, officer. A man's clear voice was beside them and not part of the noise coming from the crowd. Instinctively, Micha turns to look at the voice in the hopes that he would know it, but one look at them says no. What do you want, sir? I am Special Agent Quad, working for the Majesty to clean up the kingdom. Secret police and all that, I guess? The officer asked of this man. Not secret police, no, officer. Worker for the crown at its wishes, yes. The young man in your grasp needs to be turned over to me. There was a badge that was shown to the officer by this worker of the crown. He was a tall-looking, distinguished gentleman, so it seemed plausible. Micha, though, only felt sick to the stomach. First glance said this was not going to go any better for him. First the police, and now the royal prison cells awaited him. Could his luck get any worse? I'd have to talk to the sergeant over there to get the okay to release this one. The man nods to him, and the officer releases his grasp on Micha. With the officer trundling off to his superior, this man, Quad, turned to him. Nice to meet you, Mr. Micha, and yes, I know who you are because of Bruce. I would say nice to meet you, sir, but you haven't given your name? I did. Most people call me Quad. It's really Lord Quad, but to keep things simple and because no one likes to use a name to show off, it is just Quad. Bruce told you about me? How? Well, said he knew of a young man who could probably do a good job slipping in and out of being seen. This was a couple of weeks back. I'm guessing you have been caught up in what the affairs at the dock happened last night, otherwise you wouldn't be so sweaty. I happen to need somebody who can slip around, so I've tracked you down. You've been following me, then. How else would you know where I was? Micha said dryly. Yes, a very good conduction, boy. A few days now I've kept you under watch to see how you deal with things. Did I pass your little eye test then? And are you the man I was directed to with this letter? Quad nods, though it is a subtle one as the officer is now returning towards him. Can I see your badge again, sir? With a nod, the badge is once again shown by Quad, who offers a cheeky grin as the cop looks it over. It takes a few seconds, and a bit of a spit off to the side later, the officer then grimaces as he looks to Micha. If it is as you say, then he can go with you. One of our detectives will come by and check on things, though, Lord Quad. Of course. You know my address, and I can easily be found. Thank you for your help, officer. I'm Officer Stanley. Good, thank you, Officer Stanley. I'll make sure your superiors know of your helpfulness. Now, young man, follow me. The two walked until they arrived at the nearby Brown Street Bridge, with Quad making his way across it, but coming to a stop halfway. Micha follows dutifully, unsure if he wants to trust any of this, but little choice at the moment. After all, he at least owes this man for getting him away from the police, so at least he could hear him out. You can see the palace from here. Is that what we're all after? Is that where you want me to go? That's what Bruce was talking about when I saw him this morning. Yes, I need someone to act as eyes and ears for me to see what is going on in there. This is in regards to magic, politics, and anything else funky going on that I should know. Why do you need to know all of this? Knowledge is power, boy. We need power to keep the world running. And what about last night's events, activities? Did you know about them? Mr. Quad waves his hand as if there were no great significance to him. I have knowledge, vague, of them, but it is best for you not to get involved any further in that matter. Let me handle that mess. I'm sure I can clean it up. Well, it was certainly a mess, but I fear that Vance will show up in places. He comes across like a man of many connections and will do whatever he wants because of that. Micha's protests were mostly ignored, and he peeks a glance at the man who had begun to saunter away, with an easy grin on his face and flashing it right at him. Micha finds himself unsure of that, and he wants to accept that this is sort of the thing he should be doing. He's been trying to present himself as intelligent to help chill any fears about himself. It's what Bruce told him to do when he was younger, though he'd never really known how to help anyone, though he never really was sure if he was doing it. Don't worry about it for now, boy. You will get a day or two before we tackle the theater of the court, and the people who may or may not appear around it. That doesn't sound all that great or that reassuring. It really isn't great for you, but you need to know what you're getting yourself into. Better to know it now that everyone in that court is out for themselves, from the kids to the adults. Even the babies are said to have some sort of pull and power when they want attention. With an outswept hand, though, Quad led him off the remainder of the bridge and onto the road of a well-maintained section of town. The next morning found Micha waking up and then standing in a rather nice bedroom, a well-kept room, with plenty of fine things from the soft bed to the colors on the painted walls, feeling rich and generally nice to be around. It felt, though, like he was missing something, because the previous night had been spent in a closet by a kitchen, and now he was being tended to by a nice-looking maid who was doing his best not to look at. She was far too cute, and, well, her dress seemed to ripple a bit much, so he occasionally got a glance towards her chest and all her nice bosoms. There you go, sir, just as Lord Quad ordered. He ordered all of this? He did, sir, and said I should take care of your needs. Having glanced at her once more, his thoughts went a little further than they probably should, unable to judge what her age is, and while she does look about his age, it was best not to tempt things. Thank you. Is the Lord still in today, or is there some sort of thing he wants me to do? She had a bit of a disappointed look on her face as she steps back. Well, this is his home, and so he usually is here. As for requests, he did not tell me any of that. And I assume I don't have free reign of the house, but am I free to go and move about, miss? My name is Ariel, and yes, you're free to move about, but try not to disturb him. He doesn't like it when his work is interrupted by foolishness." "Thank you. Can you show me a bit about this place, then?" She gave him a nod yes, and the two moved out of the bedroom. Keeping mostly to himself despite the young maid's flirty attempts, Micha got a tour of the place. It was nice, as expected, and everything looked like a proper, rich home of someone who had money and taste. Neither of which Micha was sure he understood, and just took things in until directed to the library. There, among all the books on rich wooden shelves, was Quad, sitting at a reading table with a variety of books around him. The Lord glances up as they entered and shook his head ruefully upon seeing them. "A whole house to yourself and a young maid to keep your company, and yet you find me. I'd rather be more comfortable knowing what's going on and where I'm going and what I've got to do," Micha said. "And if I told you that I cannot tell you all of that to protect you from danger?" Micha stops a few feet short of the reading table and leans against one of the shelves. Its firm backing provides a nice comfort for his back. "I'd call you a liar." "Well, you wouldn't be completely wrong or completely right if you did." He waits a moment for Quad to offer more explanation, but the man merely sits back in his chair and nods to the maid. She vanishes from the room, leaving it just to the two of them. "Were you trying to get me seduced by your maid, or trying to have her seduce me, or what was going on there?" Micha asked. "She has many talents and likes to use them. I did not, however, put her up to that. Now, what exactly did you want to know?" Quad said with a broad smile. "The job, precisely." There's a bit of a snort from Quad, who looks about for a moment and then comes up with a piece of paper as well as a pen. "This will not be easy to explain." "If you could try, sir?" "As you wish. The king's court is filled with people, all sorts from rich to poor. Each of them has their own independent goals, ones that do not mesh with what the royalty wants. I need to know who is planning things against them." "Why?" Micha asked as he gave him a curious look and then looked around this library space to take in this crazy, crazy room. "If I have information, I can wield it to make money. It's the sort of stuff that makes the world go round, so to speak. And I fit into this by listening. The court has many people hanging on, trying to get attention, or just trying to survive all of the backstabbing. You would become part of that by listening and being a part of it." Micha was staring at the man who was writing all of this down and offering little drawings of explanation to him. He didn't really buy any of this. "You should already have someone on the inside, shouldn't you? I find it hard to believe you wouldn't have someone." He grins at Micha's comments and continues his writing and nodding along. "The court is always changing and new people coming in. Old faces lose favor and so on. I did have someone, but they paid their debts and are now free." Well, shouldn't you worry that they will tell on you, that you were listening in on what the royals wanted?" "What is there to tell that isn't already known? The king and queen are well aware that everyone is trying to gain an advantage over them. The royals must play the game along with everyone else while appearing above it." All of this sounded entirely too convenient and easy. Micha wasn't sure he bought it, but for now he would listen and nod along. "And there's no certain information you want me to be listening for?" "Unfortunately, boy, these days things have all gone cold. I need to make sure I know all of the secrets, and where they're shifting away from, the royal court and all of its whispers. Until I know what is out there, I can't know what's going on." "How will I even know if it's possible, if that's a possibility, since I don't know anything about these royal courts, and I don't know these whispers even are?" Quad is waving his hand dismissively towards him, not making Micha feel any better about this. It should be a simple matter, but this felt complex, twisted, and utterly unthought out. There is little to worry about on that front. Reports, when people talk about strange things, dealings on, they tend to go and keep quiet, even if it is for the king. The whispers will be loud and clear when you hear them, it's just a matter of listening for them. If I can get within earshot for them to even trust me in the first place, how am I supposed to dress up for this sort of thing? How am I even getting in there? Oh, you will get some nice clothes, and at least some better ones than the ones you're wearing. And that's all I'm getting for this supposed meeting? Go listen, have some clothes, and put yourself in danger? Micha said, his voice filled with doubt. Yes, pretty much that is what you have before you. It is up to you, of course, if you go through with it and how far you take it, but the more information, the better. While Micha is still young, he knew enough and had enough sense to know that walking away, if it was possible, was never simple. There would always be a cost, one he probably could not afford. How expensive is it to not go through with this and you just simply let me walk away? Well, you're already here and we've already talked about the plans. It wouldn't make sense for you to completely walk away, Lord Quad announced. Some other job, or you just make me disappear. Perhaps a little of A, perhaps a little of B, both. One last question, then. Why me? Micha demanded to know. Oh, plenty of reasons. Mostly you show the ability to get into and out of trouble. Everyone needs someone like that in bad situations, young boy. Should I consider myself a sacrifice, then, just to be on the safe side? Lord Quad nodded. Yes, by all means. That's a means to an end. Nothing you do will have a great impact and will only cause you problems should you make too much of a fuss, unless you get my answers to me, in which case that changes everything. Not liking the sound of that, Micha shut up for a moment and looks about the library and the books around here. Nothing about them stand out from the dusty covers and the bindings obscured from reading. Still all looked very rich, though, and very nice. I don't like this. No one likes doing anything like this, but it must be done and everyone must do it. Be prepared tomorrow, you're off to the court to make yourself known. Find some friends among the people, otherwise you won't last very long there. Taking this to mean he was dismissed, Micha moved towards the door, a great worry of not really knowing what he was doing coming to him. Listening, of course, is easy enough to do, but doing it without raising suspicion that he was doing it? That took skill, which he wasn't sure he had or not. He came to a stop next to the door, moving to open it, but really stopping so he might get a look at the books next to it. You should keep moving, Micha. There's nothing among those books that you would care about. It takes me a second to open the door, especially if I'm not sure it's been locked before. There is the sound of a grunt of disbelief. If it had been bought by this man, Micha wasn't unsure as he took the chance to try and read the title. Lost Tides of Battles, it read. It looked to be a non-fiction story. It was something to keep track of just in case, and so he steps out. In a nice suit, not too ornate or stand-out-ish, Micha steps from the carriage that had carried him from Quad's home to the grounds of the Castle of the Royals. It is quiet this morning, with a few people out and about in the gardens, and none paying attention to him, which suited Micha just fine. There is, however, a guard and an orderly who seem to be waiting for him. Mr. Rexon, you are here by a request of Lord Quad? Yes, that is me. Forgive me, I'm not familiar with the way things work in these types of situations. That is fine, sir. This is your guard who will stay around you during your time in court for today, just so you don't get in trouble. Please do not try to lose him or get into any trouble whatsoever. Otherwise I'll be asked to leave, Mr. Orderly. You will find yourselves in the cells below the castle. The king and queen do not mess around with time wasters. Well, then I shall try not to say anything at all in that case. The orderly nods and signals that Micha should follow him. That would be very wise, sir, but do not worry that much. We are aware of everyone here and what they're trying to do. So I should make sure I don't stand out, then. Precisely. Now there's much to do and see. If you will follow me quickly. End of part 2 of Tangled in a Criminal World. Thank you for listening.